We're just about done with installing our oil pump so we can close up the bottom end. One of the things we noticed though is, you see that gap there? Well, in the instructions there's a warning that comes with the pump that says make sure that it's pressed all the way in. Well, this looks like it's not pressed all the way in, but there's no way it's going down any further. And so what I did, or what we just to make sure, got the old pump, and you can see the mark. It didn't go all the way in either. It's about the same amount. So that's the best it's going to do. Main thing to me is, I mean, if these flanges are flat, there's no way it's going any further down. And if it did, the crank would have hit it. They got the complete Felpro gasket kit, and one of the things you're going to notice, probably, unless you've done a recent replacement, is the gaskets don't look like the old style gaskets. In fact, very different. They're not rubber. Well, they're silicone, but they're not the rubber or the cork. They're not the thick pad. They have all these raised ridges. They have all these raised ridges. Now, according to Felpro, they're made to work this way, dry. You're not supposed to put silicone or anything on them. Of course, I'm scared to death not to put gasket cement, because I've always used gasket cement. But I'm going to do it, and hopefully everything will seal fine. The oil pump's tightened down 30 foot-pounds. I cleaned off the gasket surfaces with lacquer thinner. Now I'm putting on the rubber Felpro gasket. There's little ears on each side that go down into the block. So you want to make sure this is centered nice, so that when the cover comes down, it pushes those into the place where they're supposed to go. Unfortunately, if you push one side and then the other side pops out, so just make sure they're centered and then they should go right down. You can see the ears in there, both sides. So just touching, so pulling that down. I'll snug this down first. These bolts down first. And also made sure that the gasket is centered in the holes. I had to pull a little bit, you know, because it's stretchable, it's rubber. Get it all centered up first, even before the bolts. Well, all of the oil pan bolts are in, tightened down to 210 inch-pounds. Including the front ones, we put the timing cover on, timing chain cover. And while we cannot use this dampener and pulley because it's made for a standard 5.9, this is externally balanced. This has a balance to it. We can't use that because the crankshaft that we put in, the stroker, is internally balanced. But we could use it just to slide on and make sure that the cover went on centered to the pulley. And then we just snug down the 3 studs and the 1 bolt. And that allowed us also to put in the 2 end bolts on the oil pan. So now this can just come off. And when we get when we're ready to put the 5.2 or the early 5.9 harmonic balancer on, damper, we can do that. We still have to put in the rest of the bolts for the water pump and to secure the timing cover. We installed the water pump. It's a brand new one. We wanted to get it on now because since we put the timing cover on and there was a little bit of gas, I wanted to make sure that whole gasket was flattened, and in order to do that you have to put the water pump on because these bolts squashed the gasket at the top. So we did that. I got a brand new water pump, even though the old one kind of looked okay, because from everything I've read, these timing covers develop water leaks, and it's because the gasket fails right there on either side. And part of the reason that supposedly happens is because anytime you replace the water pump and you pull these bolts out, it releases that, and then you don't get a good seal, or it rips the gasket or something. I don't know. But there were enough people that were doing that, replacing the timing cover gasket because of that leak, that I decided that this was a good option.